So welcome everyone to today's class, physics lecture, and this is circular dynamics lecture number 8. In lecture number 7, if we all remember, we had discussed, we are discussing motion in a horizontal plane, circular motion in a horizontal plane, or horizontal circular motion, and we have seen different examples of horizontal circular motion. And if I can recollect and go back in the past, the last class, we were discussing the motion of a conical pendulum. A conical pendulum which goes like this. Dung, 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 dung. There were a lot of quantities that we had seen in that, namely, let me just recall it: the length of the string L, the angle theta that the string makes with the vertical, the center O, the radius R, the weight of the block downwards, mg, velocity of the block inside, outside, angular velocity of the block omega, and we had found out relation between these quantities, and we had seen an example of what type of questions can come. Mostly the questions that are going to come will be straightforward, where they will ask you the value of tension T, which I have just marked, in terms of the known quantities, or the velocity V, which I have just marked, in terms of the known quantities. The question that we did in the previous class was about the breaking of the string. What is the maximum velocity that this bob can move without the string getting broken? And I hope all of us remember this. Can I have some raised hand? Can anyone tell me that we remember that question? If you remember that question, that covers each and every aspect of conical pendulum that you should know in circular motion. There is one more thing about this conical pendulum that you must know, and I hope you would have studied it in the rotational wala chapter, that is the angular momentum of this conical pendulum. And normally this angular momentum is often found out about this hinge point. Let me call this as h. So this angular momentum is normally found out about the hinge point h. That is the only thing that remains that we have not discussed in this conical pendulum. That is the only thing that we have not discussed in this conical pendulum, is the angular momentum about this point h, which I'm sure would have been covered in the chapter on rotational motion. Apart from that, there's nothing in this particular topic that you now don't know. Having said that, let us now take a journey forward and try to wind up the horizontal circular motion in today's class. Two, or I should say three, cases are remaining, which we should discuss so that we wrap up this entire topic. And to begin wrapping up this topic, we would begin by this question, which is coming to you right now on your screens. And here it comes. And this is the question that we are going to start off. It didn't come the right way. Now it is okay. Now we'll start with this question and we'll end with the remaining part of horizontal circular motion. Now let us have a look at this question, and these are the type of question that will come in your examination hall. What you see here is a block of mass m. Oops, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Okay, you have a block of mass m. This is the block of mass m, which is moving with a constant speed v. As you can see, the speed is given as v against a smooth, horizontal, fixed, circular groove of radius r. So the radius of this groove, is r, and this groove is smooth. So this part, which is the vertical part, I can't draw a 3D drawing, and that is why I'm using this. So I'll be using this in 3 or 4 ways, different ways. Okay, so this is a vertical groove, as you all can see, and it is circular. This is something like a cylinder. If I say something like a cylinder, this is not exactly cylindrical shape, but this groove is like this. It has a bottom, and this bottom is not flat, but it has a flat bottom, and then it has a cylindrical part like this, which is vertical. Now this is not exactly cylinder. My bottle is shaped in a fancy way, but this is how the groove looks like. This is a vertical cylinder with a base, and everything here is smooth. Do we understand this? Can I have some raise hand that we understand what is drawn there and how it looks like? If you can visualize physics, it becomes easier for you to understand it. So it has a vertical cylindrical shape, and it has a bottom. So what I've drawn is the vertical. Then what I'm going to draw, this part is the base. This part is the base, or you can call it the floor. Do we understand this, how this looks like? It is important for you to understand what means what. Vertical cylindrical shape, curved part of the cylinder, and a horizontal base, floor. So it is moving. Obviously, it is kept on the floor, and it is moving. It is in contact with the vertical wall. It is in contact with the floor, and it is moving on a circular path. That is the question. That is what given to you. A block of mass m is moving with a speed, constant speed v. It is in contact with the vertical wall, and it is in contact with the horizontal floor. What we have to do is find, number one, the normal reaction of the floor on the block. Floor is the bottommost portion. You have to find the normal reaction of the floor on the wall. That is first thing. And the second thing is you have to find the normal reaction or the reaction force between the vertical wall and the block. So there are two forces acting on this. One is the force from the floor, bottom floor, and one is the force from the vertical side curved cylindrical walls. You have to tell me the value of all these two forces, normal reaction from the floor and normal reaction from the vertical wall. I'll give you a minute to think about it, and give me the answer. Well, I hope everyone has tried the question. Let me help you out in solving this. How are we supposed to do this? Well, we only have one way. We need to draw the free body diagram. Let us first draw the free body diagram, drawing all the forces. So what are the forces acting on this body? The first one is the weight, which is vertically downwards, mg. All of us understand this. Then there is normal reaction coming from the floor because it is on the floor. So normal reaction will be coming from the floor. I call it as NF. N for normal reaction, F for floor. Simple. Then it is in contact with the vertical wall, and this vertical wall will be giving it a normal reaction which will be perpendicular to the wall, and we call it NV. So what this question is asking, it is asking the normal reaction from the floor, which is nothing but NF, and it is asking you to find out the normal reaction from the vertical wall, which is nothing but NV. You just need to find out the value of NF and NV. And how do we do this? We have drawn the free body diagram. Then we have to resolve the forces in three axes. What is the first axis? The black one. The first axis is along the tangential direction. The tangential direction here is the direction of velocity v along the circular path. It's always tangential. It is always along the circular path. Now my question is, this floor is smooth. As you can see, this floor is smooth. This floor is smooth. And this body is moving on a smooth floor. Will there be any tangential forces? It is also moving with a constant speed v. So there cannot be any tangential force because it is moving with a constant force v. And I also don't see any force coming there. So the equation in the tangential direction is ft 0, at 0, and speed v is constant. This equation just tells us that it will keep on moving with the same constant velocity and nothing will happen. This is just for your information. You are not going to solve the question using this equation because it does not give us any relevant equation. That takes us to the second equation, and the second equation is always in which direction? It is always in the centripetal direction or the radial direction or towards the center. Now, if I look at this centripetal direction, we will get the value of centripetal force. Now, which force is giving you the centripetal force here? Which force is trying to make it move inside the circle on a circular track? And the only force which is making it move on the circular track is this force NV. NV is the force, the green force, which is acting as centripetal force in this question, giving it the centripetal acceleration. Do we understand this? Can I have some raise hand that we understand this? Students in the class, are you getting my point? Can I get some reaction? The centripetal force is given by the normal force from the vertical wall, and it is always equal to mv squared by r. Nv squared by r. And yes, this is the answer for your second question. The answer is mv squared by r. We got it from the second equation, which is the centripetal equation in the radial or centripetal or towards the center wala direction. That leaves us with one more thing to do. And in which color are we going to do this? I forgot the color. Blue. You do it in pink. Pink is good. Question number 3. In the third direction, and this third direction is perpendicular to the plane of the circular path. Now this circular path is horizontal, so the plane or direction which is perpendicular is the vertical direction. Now there must not be any force in the perpendicular direction, or if there is any force, the forces must equate so that the net force becomes 0. Now, there are only two forces here. One is your NF and the other one is your mg. They must equate. So my NF should be equal to mg, and this ends up the first part. This sums up the first part of my question. This must be equal to m into g. So the reaction from the floor on the block is mg, and the reaction from the vertical wall on the block is mv squared by r. This is how this question needs to be solved. I hope you have understood this. I'll give you a minute to note it down. Please note it down. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Well, I hope all of the students have noted it down. The reaction from the floor is mg, and the reaction from the vertical wall is mv squared by r. Vertical wall is giving it the centripetal force. Normal reaction from the floor is balancing out the weight of the block. I hope everyone understands this. That will take us to the next and the last type of questions in this horizontal circular motion. And what type of questions are we going to deal with now? Well, we are going to deal with a very peculiar type of question or motion, which is turning of vehicles, or basically cars, turning of cars on circular roads. Ooh, 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 ooh. Now, you might have seen all these highways. There are many highways now getting constructed, and when you are on this highway, and when this highway takes a turn, or you must be sitting in a train, and when the train goes through a turn on the tracks, normally when there is a circular turn coming, obviously there are all types of traffic signals over there, traffic signs over there. Sometimes there is also a speed limit given, maximum speed 60 km per hour, 80 km per hour, 100 km per hour. And when it's a straight road, the maximum speed increases. Have you ever wondered why it is so? Why, when you are on a circular track, you have to decrease your speed? The only reason, and when it is raining, the road is slippery, then you should decrease your speed further. Otherwise, you all know what happens. Your car slips, your car slips, and there are higher chances of accident. In fact, most of the accidents happen on turns. You're not able to control your speed and you bang somewhere here. You might have seen formula races or these motorbike races. Most of the accidents are happening when they are taking a turn and they bang on the side railings. Why is that so? The reason is pretty damn simple. When a car is turning on a circular track, there must be, it is changing direction. We are not talking about speed at all. It is also changing speed. But what we are concerned is the change in direction, the turning. We are not concerned about how it is controlling its speed. Maybe it is applying brake, you are decreasing the speed. That is a different question. We are more concerned on what is causing it to turn. Obviously, you'll say, sir, we turn the steering wheel and it turns. Now, just not by turning the turning wheels, by not turning the steering wheel. There has to be something that has to give it the required centripetal force. And what is that thing? So, this turning is provided by, I've told you that before also. The only reason car runs on road is not because it has a very powerful engine. The most powerful engine cannot make a car run on a block of ice, on a block of snow, on a block of ice. The tire will just keep rotating and nothing will happen. Friction, my dear friends, friction, friction. Friction, my dear friends, is the reason why this car When the wheel turns, the car moves forward. And when it comes the case of turning a vehicle on a circular track or circular road, obviously different things help the car in turning. We will see the simplest possible case. There are two types of cases there. Simplest possible case. And the first of these cases is by friction only. By using friction only. So, the only thing that is going to make it turn is friction. Now, how do I draw the diagram? Again, it is a horizontal circuit, it is moving like this. So, I'll draw. This is my road. This is my road. This is the center of the circular track, center O. And my car, and I'm going to draw the back side of the car. This is how my car looks like. I'll draw two nice wheels. This looks like a very stupid car, but we will somehow deal with this car. Now this car is moving on a circular track, and the circular track is like this. I hope you understand the circular track. The circular track is like this. So from here, this car will go in with a velocity v, and we have to find out what makes it to turn. See, it is not attached to something. Na? This car is just moving on circular track. This I have just drawn to show you that the radius of this turning track is r. Is the picture clear to everyone? That this car is on the road and it's turning like this. This is the best that I can draw. I hope all of you understand this. Now, instead of this car, this could be a car, this could be a bike, this could be a train. Not train. Train runs on track, so let us not forget. Car, bike, bus, truck, anything. It is turning, and the velocity with which it is turning is v. Mass of this car or block, it's not a block. Mass of this car is m. Car or bike, bus, truck. Now I have to find out what is giving it the required centripetal force. The first thing is we are going to draw the free body diagram. Weight mg comes down. All of you understand this. Because of this weight, I have to draw it this way. Otherwise, I would have drawn the other diagram. But if I draw the other diagram, I will not be able to draw the weight. Weight is mg, and this is on ground, on road. So the road will be giving it a normal reaction n. There is no motion in this direction. So we can make an equation. Now, it is turning on a road, so something must give it the required centripetal force. Now, as you can see, normal reaction is going up. Normal reaction cannot give it anything. There is no wall from the behind. There is no wall there. Remember in the previous question, there was a wall. It was in contact with a wall. So wall was giving it the centripetal force. Here there is no wall. Now the question is, God, who will give it the centripetal force? And the answer is pretty simple. Friction will give it the centripetal force. Now my question is, there are two types of friction that we know. One is the static friction and another one is the kinetic or the dynamic friction. Which friction will give it the required centripetal force? Will it be static friction or will it be kinetic friction? Anyone can tell me whether this friction would be static in nature. Remember, I don't want the car to slip. If the car slips, voila, no one can stop it. Or is the friction kinetic? Which type of friction will stop this car or make this car from turning on the track? To turn on the track, will it be static friction or will it be kinetic friction? The wheels are rotating. What type of friction will give this car the required centripetal force. And if your answer is static friction, my dear friends, that is correct. Static friction will be giving it the required centripetal force. Now you would ask, sir, why not? Why not kinetic friction? Why not kinetic friction? Because beta, kinetic friction comes when this starts to slip. And I don't want it to slip. Because if the car slips, ooh, accidents are going to happen. Your brake cannot stop a car from slipping. Your brake can only stop the rotation of the car. It cannot stop the sliding of the car. I hope you understand it. And that is why, if it is raining, the road is slippery, you go slow. Why you will go slow? Because you will understand it right now from our discussion. Remember, your brake can only stop the rotation of the car. It cannot stop the sliding of the car. Nothing can stop your sliding. It's only the friction, the kinetic friction from ground that can stop your sliding. But if it is smooth surface, the road is smooth, no one is going to stop you. And your car is going to bang on something, and then it's only going to stop. Brakes are only for rotational. Anyways, so this is static friction that is going to turn the car. Static friction is going to make it move forward. It is also going to make it turn. And this static friction, I hope I'm using the right color. Oops, I have gone through. Okay, I must undo this. Okay. So the static friction is going to provide it with the centripetal force. Now, if I make the equation, my first equation will be in the tangential direction, and I'm assuming that this is moving with a uniform velocity, so there is no tangential force. So my first equation does not give me anything. That takes me to the second equation. My second equation is FC. Now, who is giving it me the FC? And it is equal to Fs, where Fs is your static friction, and that must be equal to mv square by r. Do we all agree on this? Can I have some raised hand that we agree on this? We agree on equation number 2. Okay. That takes me to the third equation, and the third equation is always in the perpendicular direction. F perpendicular should be 0. There should not be any net force in the perpendicular direction. Right now, I see N, normal reaction, and I see mg. They must equate. So N is equal to mg. Do we all understand this? Can I have some raised hand that we understand this? Now, these are the equations that we have. Now we have to relate them, because this is all we have learned in circular dynamics. Make 3 equations that we have done. Now we have to relate them. Now, how are we going to relate them is, again, we have to go back in past and think about what is static friction. Remember, static friction is very intelligent friction. It is self-adjusting. It adjusts itself. It can change its value. It can change its value from a minimum value to a maximum value. And that is what we need to remember, and that is what we need to write here. F static is always less than or equal to F limiting friction. And F limiting is always equal to mu S into N. Do we understand this? Do we remember this? The value of static friction is not fixed. It keeps on changing. And it is always less than or equal to limiting friction. Can I have some reason that we understand this? Okay, great. Now this N, the value of N can be substituted from here. This Fs, the value of this Fs can be substituted from here. So if I write these two equations together, I will end up here mv squared by r is less than or equal to mu s multiplied by mg. I hope all of you understand this. I have just substituted the value of n from the top to here, and I've just substituted the value of fs from the top to here. Now I can continue on this equation. M and m will get cancelled. V square will be less than or equal to mu s into r into g. I will take the positive value. V will be less than or equal to mu s r g ka root. So your value of v, the velocity that which you can turn, should be always less than or in the worst case equal to mu s into r into g. That means this gives you a maximum velocity. Your velocity should always be less than a particular number. Your velocity should be less than a particular number. So for example, your velocity should always be less than 10 meter per second. This is 10 meter per second, your limit. Your velocity must be less than 10 meter per second. That means what is the maximum velocity that you can go? From here, you can find out the maximum velocity. The maximum velocity that you can turn the vehicle is equal to root over mu s. Okay, I'll just change this and I'll just write it in bigger letters. Just give me some time. I see that the space is running out. So I'll just write it here now. So from here, I can write the value of this V max, the maximum velocity with which I can turn on this circular track, the maximum velocity with which I can turn on this circular track only using friction will be equal to mu s into r into g. It is directly proportional to the value of root of mu s. V is directly proportional to the value of mu s ka root. That means if mu s is more, I can move with a higher velocity. And that is why when it is raining, the roads are slippery. It is advisable that you move slow because the value of mu s will have fallen down and there are more risk of your vehicle slipping. You may not remember the entire discussion. What you got to remember is this point. If you can remember this point, keep it in mind always. What is the maximum velocity with which a vehicle can move, can turn on a path, turn on a circular path? The answer is root over mu s into r into g. Do we understand this? Can I have some reason that you understand this? This is the only thing that you have to remember. I have given you the entire analysis. You only need to remember the final answer. I will give you a minute to note it down. The questions coming on this would be straightforward. They will give you the value of mu s. They will give you the value of r. You know the value of acceleration due to gravity. You just have to find out the value of v max. A minute to note down this question. Well, I hope all of you have noted this down. The only thing that you have to remember is the value of v max. Everything else is just of little use to you. Let us move on to the next thing. Remember, we are discussing the turning of cars or vehicles on circular roads. In the first case, what we saw was a vehicle or a car or a cycle or a bike or a truck or a bus turning on a circular track using friction only. But when the roads are constructed, obviously they make it rough. You will say, sir, the roads have to be smooth. Yes, they are smooth, but they are rough. Because if they are not rough, tires will only turn and vehicle will not move forward, and you will not be able to turn on a circular track. But that is not the only way in which you can turn on a circular track. Roads also have something else to help you turn on the circular track. And what is that? That is known as banking, and it has got nothing to do with the bank where your mom and dad and you have your account and you keep your money safe. That is not the bank that we are talking about. Then what is this bank that we are talking about? So again, I'm going to draw a diagram. My diagrams are really very revolutionary. They only help you understand the question and nothing else. They are working diagrams. In my college, is a when you get into engineering college, you will not get into engineering college. You are NEET students. When engineering students will get into engineering college, they will go through this subject known as machine drawing. Machine drawing, you have to make drawings and those have to be working. My drawings were always working and I always used to get maximum marks. Now, what I'm going to do, previously the road was flat like this, but no, when the roads are turning on circular, when they are circular roads, they are not made flat like this. They are tilted slightly. And I don't know how many of you have noticed this. They are tilted slightly. They are tilted slightly at an angle theta. This theta is known as the angle of banking. Do we understand this? The roads are tilted like this. The roads are tilted like this. Tilted. They're tilted. And you will see it. If you ever been on a Mumbai Pune expressway, there are a lot of turns. You will see the road tilted. Oh, you might have seen the cycle race. And when you see the cycle race, the roads are highly tilted. If you see Formula One race, whenever there is a turn, the road is tilted. Why the road is tilted? See why the road is tilted. Now you have this vehicle, again my vehicle. It is moving on a circular track. It is going inside with a velocity v, cross with a velocity v. And the radius of the circle is this. This is the radius of the circle on which it is performing circular motion. Now, if I have to draw the free body diagram of this gentleman, the weight mg goes down. I can't change the direction of this weight. But when I had a flat road, the normal reaction was going vertically upward. It was not doing anything good. We were only balancing the weight. But when I tilt the road, this normal reaction now goes like this. It is perpendicular to the road. Now this normal reaction goes like this. Now this normal reaction goes like this. Now when it goes like this, I can resolve it into two components. One component which goes here and the other component which goes here. And you will find out by trigonometry that this angle is theta. So this component becomes n cos theta. And this component becomes n sine theta. And if I again write the three equations, now you will see the first equation again in the tangential direction, there is no force, so nothing comes out of this. In the second case, second equation, F centripetal. Now, who is giving you this centripetal force now? Previously, it was friction, static friction. Now, I'm not relying on friction. No. I'm relying on the banking of the roads. I've tilted the road. And since I have tilted the road, this gentleman n sine theta is coming in the direction of the center of the circle. And that was the entire reason why I had banged the road. So my F centripetal is now given by this normal reaction, the sine theta component. And we all know that it must be equal to mv squared by r. Nothing changes it. Voila. That takes me to the third equation. Third equation. It is always in the perpendicular direction of the circular path. And in the perpendicular direction of circular path, I have n cos theta, I have mg. The net force F perpendicular must be 0. That implies my n cos theta should be equal to mg. N sin theta I know, n cos theta I know. I can divide the two. So I'll get the value of tan theta by equation number 2 and 3. Tan theta will be equal to v square by rg. Or I can write v square is equal to rg tan theta, or I can write v is equal to the maximum speed that is possible is rg tan theta. Now, if you compare this with the previous equation that you know, the only difference is this tan theta. The previous answer that we got was root over mu s r into g. This answer that we have achieved is root over rg tan theta. Tan theta has replaced, and if I just cannot bring both of them together. This tan theta has replaced the value of this mu s. Mu s has been replaced by tan theta. That is the difference between the two answers, and you just have to remember one. You should be able to make out the second. Just draw the diagrams. You may not write I have described the entire process. You just have to remember the final answer. The final answer in this case is the maximum velocity by banking of road is root over rg tan theta. The maximum velocity by friction only is root over mu s into rg. That is all you need to remember in this turning of roads. Turning of roads? Turning of vehicles on road. That is what you need to remember. Now, instead of this banking on roads, the same question can be put in a different way. And what is a different way? If you are a cyclist, I'm riding cycle these days. If you are a cyclist and you want to turn, if you are a cyclist, and remember this, I'm not going to write this, I'm just going to speak. If you are a cyclist or a motorbikeist and you want to turn on a road, there are only two things that are going to help you turn on a road, not the handle. The handle only turns the wheel, that doesn't do anything. There are only two ways in which you can turn on a circular road. One is using friction. Friction helps you in turning. And what is the maximum velocity by that friction that you can turn your vehicle? That is mu s into r into g ka root. The other way is the road is banked. So then you don't have to rely on friction. You can just keep on going. And with this banking, you would be able to turn your bike. With this banking, you would be able to turn your bike. The maximum value of your velocity is root over rg tan theta. So both the cases are similar. But when you are on a bike, you can do a third thing to turn. And you always do it. And you don't realize it. And what is that thing that you can do when you are in a bike and you don't want friction to turn you? You don't want banking of the road to turn you. There is no banking. You don't want friction. You don't want banking. Then the third thing that you do and you don't realize it, or probably you realize it. And what is the third thing? And you one have seen those cyclists when they are racing, all the cyclists when they are racing, they do something. And in fact, what do you call that motorbike race? The car race is known as Formula One. The bike race is known as motography. So when you are seeing this motography, when there's a bike Running at high speed, and how did they turn? Ooh, ooh, they turn themselves. They turn themselves. Instead of going straight, ooh, they bend. Ooh, you also do it. I also do it when I'm turning my cycle. You bend. You bend. Now, when you bend, what happens? When you bend, what happens? I'm just going to draw a simple diagram. This is your road. It is not banged. There is no friction. And this is your bike. When you are not bending, your bike is like this. Mg goes up. Oh, Mg goes down. Normal reaction goes up. But when you bend, what happens then? When you bend, what happens then? If you're bending like this, if you bend like this, then your normal reaction goes here. If you are bending by an angle theta, you can resolve this normal reaction into two components, n cos theta and n sin theta. Now this n sin theta component is going to give you the centripetal force, and this n cos theta component is going to balance your weight. So instead of using banking, instead of road getting banged, you bank yourself. Ooh, ooh. But unfortunately, you cannot play the same stunt with your car. You cannot make your car like this to turn on the road. I mean, that will be very stupid. Don't try it. Yeah, you can try with your bike, and you can lean your bike and you can turn it. Now, whatever you do it, your answer will be same. So even if you are a bikeist and you are turning like this or like this, you are doing the same job as banking of road. And what is the maximum velocity with which you can turn your bike like this or like this is again equal to root over rg tan theta. Do we understand this? So that is why I'm not doing it as a separate case. I am just including this in the case of banking on roads. This is how you can turn your vehicle. If your vehicle is a bike or a cycle, don't try this with your car, sir. You tell your pop, you tell your dad, okay, sir has told me that you can bank your vehicle by turning, and sir, Papa, let us bank our car. Let us turn our car upside down and turn. Don't do it. Jokes apart, bike, bank like this, or road, bank like this. They're all similar. They help you in turning. On this note, I am going to wind up your class today. That is it on horizontal circular motion. In the next class, you'd start with motion in a vertical circle. That's all from my end. The class is dismissed. I hope that you stay safe, stay healthy, and get yourself vaccinated. Take care. I'll see you in the next week. Bye bye. May God bless you.